Newer versions of Blender have a new mesh system called BMesh. With this new system comes a lot of new and extremely useful tools. I'm going to go over some of these new tools and some old ones now. The first thing I'm going to show you is n-gons. In an edit mode of that cube, I'm going to draw myself a little shape by extruding one vertex. Now let's say we want to face this object and make it solid. Normally we'd have to go through and face it ourselves. Or we can simply select all the vertices and press the F key, and it makes it one giant face with many vertices. Now we can actually use the knife tool to cut edges in this from vertex to vertex and define ourselves some quads and some triangles. To do that, press the K key, hover over one of the vertices, and you'll see it kind of snaps to it. Click on that and then stretch it down to another vertex. Then press enter. And we just define an edge for a quad inside of this n-gon. The ability to define our own edges is something that we're going to be using constantly through mesh modeling. It makes the process of reworking or refacing some of the geometry so much easier. So keep this technique in mind as you're going through this training. And don't forget the knife tool's original ability of cutting through edges and adding new edges that way. Make a note that when you're cutting through edges, you can actually snap to the edge as well. It's just a very useful guideline that shows you where your vertices are going to be added. Now I'm going to add a cube back in and just show you some more options with the knife tool. In edit mode, press the K key to activate the knife tool and look at the header in the 3D view. It has a bunch of different options for the knife tool. One of the most notable ones is at the end, something called cut through. Let's say I make a regular cut through the cube like that. If you rotate the view, you'll see that cut didn't go all the way through. But if we undo that, press the K key, and then press the Z key to activate cut through, and make that line cut again, now you'll see it cut all the way through, instead of just the faces in the front. Now undo that, and I'm going to show you how to add edges or edge loops to the edges of this cube to give ourselves a bevel. Since we'll be doing a lot of beveling with pretty much every object in the car we're about to create, I'm going to quickly go through and show you how easy it is to bevel an edge. In the Specials menu, the W key, there is actually a bevel function, and I believe there's even a bevel modifier, but none of these work as well as we would want them to. And they don't deal with just the edges. So, first thing I'm going to do is in the Modifiers tab, I'm going to add a Subdivision Surface modifier. And in the menu on the left side of the 3D view, you can press the T key, or you can press the plus sign at the top left. Under the shading area, with all the vertices selected, press Smooth to smooth that out. You should already know how to do that. Anyway, to add edge loops, you should know this already too, but I'm going to go over it anyway. Press Ctrl and R, and you'll see these guidelines appear. We're going to add new edge loops to the edges of the cube, very close to all the corners, but not completely at the corner. And we're going to do the same thing for each side of the cube. adding new edge loops very close to the corners. And that is how you bevel an object. Now you'll see some bad shading near the edges. That's just because the cube isn't as detailed as it should be. If you crank up the subsurf modifier to level 2, it looks better, and level 3, it looks perfect. And now the last thing I'm going to go over is general facing techniques. So in top view, I'm going to add a plane. I'm going to delete the top vertices, and the bottom two vertices, I'm going to select that edge and subdivide it twice. Then I'm going to duplicate that and move it up parallel. Now this is a set of two edges parallel to each other. To face them together, we can do it manually, or we could select them both, press W for the specials menu, and select Bridge to Edge Loops. And as long as they're the same number of vertices, they'll connect together. Now another way to do this, let's say the top has a couple of extra vertices. If you press W for the specials menu and select Bridge to Edge Loops again, it's going to give you an error. So to face these, we could do it manually again, which sucks. Or we can simply close this into an actual loop. Select all of the vertices and press Alt and F for quick facing of that. But the problem with that is it faces them all using triangles, which is not good. But we can fix that after we have the set of triangles by pressing Alt and J. That forms a quad from two triangles that are next to each other. Now we still have these two triangles left over, but that's better than having a whole series of triangles. But let's say we had these two extra triangles here that we wanted to get rid of. We can simply select the vertex at the top of one of the triangles, press the X key, and select Dissolve. That actually removes that edge and gives us a quad. Let's do that with the other vertex. Dissolve. The cool thing about dissolve is that I'm going to extrude this a few times to illustrate something. That if we selected the vertex in the middle of something that has four quads around it, and press the X key and select dissolve on that one, it will give us an n-gon. It doesn't delete any of the geometry, it just gets rid of that one vertex as if it was never there, and it puts a face in its place. We can do that with all of these vertices. We can do that with edges as well. Selecting a few vertices at a time, we just dissolve those two edges. So I got rid of all of the center vertices now, and we're just left with one big n-gon. So that is the power of dissolve. And that will do it for this chapter. Those are just a few basic tools you need to know because you'll be using them all the time.